Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. If you don't know me, I'm Nikki and I make crochet content. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my very first year as a crochet vendor. 2024 was my very first year doing crochet markets. I started doing them in, I think, March or April, and then I had my last show in November. And I thought it would be fun to share with you guys the top 5 mistakes that I made throughout the year, my best sellers, and how much money I made. Hopefully, this will help provide some insight if you are somebody who is interested in doing markets and you want to know more about it, or if you're deciding whether or not you want to try it out, or if you're just nosy. Yes, my friend, don't worry, I will have all of the details for you. So let's get started with the top 5 mistakes that I made throughout the year. Okay, now number 1, the very first mistake that I want to talk about is that I did not practice my setup before my shows. I did do this in the very beginning when I first started. A couple weeks before I started, actually, I took over our entire living room and I set everything up the way that I wanted it to look. It looked really good and I was really happy with it. But then over time, my inventory changed. I started adding more stuff to it and everything kind of grew out of control. There were some shows where I was literally figuring out my setup when I got there that morning. So that's one thing that I wish that I spent more time on, is setting up before the show. You can get your tables out. If you don't have your tables, you can measure out a spot on the floor and use tape for the boundaries of it. And make sure that you know how you want everything to look, exactly where every single thing is gonna go. And that could take some time. Honestly, when I've done it before, it's taken me a few hours to get everything set up and out the way that I want it to. So make sure to set that time aside before your first show or before any show where you've added a bunch of new inventory, so that you know exactly what your setup's gonna be and you don't have to worry about it the morning that you get there. Okay, the second mistake that I want to talk about that I made is that I did not have any sort of branding at my table. I didn't have any QR code that led people to my shop or anything like that. So that's something that I wish that I would have done differently, is started out with heavier branding so that people know who I am. But I'm super excited because I was recently gifted a Munbin printer.
This is the 402B thermal printer, which means that it doesn't use any ink, and it's on sale this week, so I will leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. The Munbin app has over 1,000 free editable templates, everything from Christmas to birthday to commerce. Here is a thank you sticker that I made recently, and it's perfect for sealing packages or just thanking your customers. I found this other template that I really liked. It's super cute, and so I customized it and I changed the text to say clearance. I changed the font type, and now I'll have a little clearance sticker for my next show. These labels can also be used for home organization, so I decided to repurpose this template and create myself a label for my whips basket. I have a basket that we all know probably gets neglected a little too much, so I made a label and now I have no excuse. But I think one of my favorite things about this printer are the QR codes. I want to make myself a really simple QR code label, so I'm going to use this template, and what's really nice is I can choose the exact label that I have. Mine is called the iridescent one. And now I can customize the template, move around all the pieces so they fit onto the label, change the title. Once I'm happy with it, then I can click on the QR code. And here's the best part. You can change the link of the QR code to be whatever you want it to be. So I'm going to have it linked to my Etsy shop, and now I have a really easy way to share a link to my shop with my customers. And now I can just scan this and it's going to take me straight to my Etsy shop. And like I said earlier, what's really nice is you can link to anything you want. So if you wanted to link to your Instagram, for example, you could do that too.
This printer is definitely going to help me stay more organized. It's going to allow me to price my items, brand my items. So thank you so much to Munbin for sending me this printer. Now, the third mistake that I want to talk about that I made is I did not have enough signage or good signage. Signage is not only important for pricing, but also you want to tell your customers what the plushies even are to begin with. For example, there's this one plushie that I'm obsessed with. It's the froggy in the basket. It's this cute little frog that comes with a basket and he can come out of the basket. And when I display him, I have him hanging up. But there's nothing that says that he can come out of the basket. And so people come by and they're like, oh, that's a really cute frog in a basket. And then I have to tell them he comes out of his basket too. Then they pick the frog up. They love it so much that they buy it right then and there. But what I found is that if I put a little sign that says he can come out of his basket or something like that, or like with the mushy pops, if you just say pull the top, people are intrigued. They're like, what does that mean? Pull the top. Then they pull it and they see, oh, this is an interactable toy. Now, I didn't start doing my signs until like closer to the end of last season. So I think if I would have had my signs up throughout the whole season, it would have just made for a little bit probably better experience for both myself and the customer. Other things you can add on your signage is your payment options. Like, do you take Venmo, Cash App? Do you take card or cash? So definitely make sure to think about what you want to do for your signage from the start. You can use that as part of your setup. You get everything set up on your table, including your signage before your first show, and then that way you're prepared. The fourth mistake that I want to talk about is pricing. So when I was preparing for my markets last year, I was not keeping track of the amount of time that it was taking me to make the plushies or the amount of yarn, the stuffing, anything like that. I was just kind of whipping through them, trying to get through them as quick as I could. And I wasn't taking the time to stop and just weigh my materials to see how much it actually costs to make a plushie. And this seemed very obvious, but it was something that since I didn't do it from the start, my pricing strategy really struggled throughout the year. I didn't really feel like I was able to justify certain prices, even though I've been told that my prices are a little bit low and I could probably get away with raising them. I still didn't feel like I could justify it because I didn't have the hard numbers written down, proving that this is the time, the materials, the money that went into making each item. But now I'm starting to keep track of everything. I have a spreadsheet where I'm tracking all of the stuff that I'm making. But I think that the main point here is that you need to figure out your pricing strategy and then stick to it. Make sure that you are charging for all your materials, all of your time, everything that goes into it, the booth fees, the tables, the chairs, all your display items, the bags. If you have a square reader, there are so many things that go into it. The very last mistake that I want to talk about today, the fifth mistake, is that I did not bring enough inventory with me to at least one of my shows. In November, I did my best show ever. I almost sold out of everything. I do have a video where I talk about that. So if you want to check it out, I will put a link, but that show was amazing. I did so well, and I'm really, really grateful for it. The only issue is that like I said, almost completely sold out about halfway through the show. So like 3 to 4 hours in, I had sold so many things that I condensed 2 tables down to 1. I had 2 more shows the following 2 weekends after that show, and I had like no inventory. And the problem is that I had gotten really comfortable from my previous shows. I had gotten used to only selling, like 30, maybe 40 items on a good day. So I got kind of lazy and I didn't crochet as much stuff as I should have. And then I sold out. And then that put me on course for my last few shows being, number one, crazy hectic. I was crocheting nonstop. I work a full-time job, and every single second that I was not working that job, I was crocheting. The last show that I had of the year, my table was so bare. It was embarrassing how little stuff I had on that table. So I don't want to scare anyone into thinking that they have to just crochet nonstop in order to prep for their market. But make sure that you're managing your time and that you're not forgetting that you are prepping for a market. You want to make sure that you have enough inventory. If you take a day or two off here and there, that's fine. But don't be like me. Don't just sit for a week straight and do nothing but play Hogwarts Legacy. Okay, those were my top 5 mistakes that I made this year during my first year of doing crochet markets. Let me know down in the comments, have you ever ran into any of these issues at your crochet markets? Or is there any other mistakes that you've made at your markets and you want to talk about it in the comments to let other people know and not to make the same mistake that you did? Okay, now, even though I felt like there were some mistakes that I made throughout the year, I do want to wrap up this section on on a positive note and talk about the positive things that happened. So I definitely made some mistakes, but I would say that the first year was pretty successful. I only lost money at one of my shows. At all of the other shows, I made back my booth fee plus a little profit. And then also people were just so nice and they had the kindest things to say. Also, doing the markets gives me something to do and it gets me out of the house. I work from home and I spend like 99.8% of my time at home. So getting out of the house, having something to do, interacting with people, even though I might not really feel like it in the morning, afterwards, I am on like such a high. It's such a rush. All right, let's talk about the top 10 best selling plushies at my shows last year. And I think we will start with number 10. Okay, at number 10 were these small cows. This pattern is by Madeline Mako, and I actually sold quite a few of these cows. I sold 10 of them throughout the year, and I had them priced anywhere from like $22 to $24 each. And people seem to really like them. So definitely planning on making more for 2025. Coming in at number 9 is the chicken nugget. I sold 11 chicken nugget. This is actually a free pattern that I found on Instagram. I have a Google Doc down in the description with links to all of the patterns that I use. And so the link to the chicken nugget will be down there. And I sold these chicken nuggets for $5 each. I think that was one of the items that did not change prices throughout the year. I kept it the same the whole time. Coming in at number 8 is the mini octo. I sold 15 mini octos and the prices on these ranged. I think at first I had them for $7 or $8. And then I dropped them down to like $5, I think, which is really low. And then I bumped them back up. I think I ended the season at $7 for these little octos. This was a free pattern. I swear to you that I found this pattern on Instagram and I swear that it was by All From Jade. And I wrote it down so that I didn't have to keep going back on Instagram. And when people asked me for it, I tried to find it and I can't find it. All From Jade does have a pattern of an octopus, but the one that is listed on her page is different than this one. Yeah, I guess it's just like my little secret. No, I'm just joking. I did put a link in that Google Doc to another octopus that is very similar to this. Okay, number 7 is the bee keychain. And I sold 16 of these, and I think I had them at $6 each for the entire time. There might have been one show where I dropped them down to $5, but I don't have any with me. I'm actually not planning on making any more keychains. I've not had the best luck with keychains, and I'm not really planning on making any more. So anyways, I'll just put a picture up here. This, I believe, is another free pattern that I found on Instagram. And again, that will be in the description below. Coming in at number 6 was the sea turtle. I really love this pattern. It's a no-sew pattern, and it works up for me in a little over a half an hour. The turtle is a little smaller, I feel, than some of the other turtle patterns that are out there, but it fits in your hands perfectly. And this pattern is by 1 Cent Crochet. It is a free tutorial that she has here on YouTube, so I will link that in the Google Doc. These guys started out at $15 each, and then I had a couple shows where they weren't selling, so I dropped them down to $12, which is really low, and then I bumped them up to $13 eventually, so I've got them at $13. But I will probably have to bump them up a little bit more. And I sold 17 of these. The number 5 best-selling plushie for me this year were the chickens. I ended up selling 19 of these, and it's funny because I barely sold any in my first few shows. It took till the last few shows for me to sell them all, but I don't have any with me. I actually gave my last one away to my sister, so I will put a picture up here on the screen. And this is the Oak and Marlowe pattern. It's the Mabel chicken, and I had them at $10. Number 4, this one was a little bit surprising for me in the beginning when they started doing well, but the Mushy Pops. I sold 26 Mushy Pops this year, and red was by far the most popular color. I had no red left. This pattern is by Cable and Canvas. And people love that it's interactive, and they also like the red one because it reminds them of Mario. I believe I started these at $5. I think I saw that somebody else was selling them for like $3, which is extremely low. If you're selling a mushy puck for $3, like, so at $5, they were doing pretty well. I bumped them up to $7 and they still did pretty well there. We're getting into the heavy hitters. I guess the mushy pop was kind of a heavy hitter, but the axolotls coming in at number 3. These guys did really well. I would sell out of them at almost every show really early, and people would be asking for more axolotls. So this is something that I will have to keep in stock for sure. I sold 28 of them last year. I was only charging $12 for these at first, and I have it up at $16 right now, and they still seem to sell pretty well. I think that the color that might have done best this year was probably pink, but all of the colors still sold. Okay, what do you think number 2 is? You can probably guess what number 1 is, but let's talk about number 2 first. So number 2 best-selling item, coming in with 29 of these bad boys sold, is the Leggy Froggies. These are one of my favorites. It's a classic. Everybody loves these. This is one of the items where I had a lot of people come up to the table, look at the froggies, walk away, come back and buy a froggy. They just loved it that much. The Leggy Froggies started at $10 each, I believe, and I was not selling them to begin with. In the start, nobody was buying them. Then as time went on, they started flying off the shelves. They got down to $5 at one time, but right now they are sitting steady at $9 each. This pattern is by Not Jaded Co., and this is just one of my staples. I will always have tons of Leggy Froggies in stock. Okay, so we've gotten to our number 1 item. Can you guess what it is? I know that you know what this is already. It is the Loaf Cats, of course. I actually had 2 different versions of the Loaf Cats this year. I had one version that had a chain tail, and then this version, which is a little bit bigger, and it has a full tail that's not a chain. So combined between the both of those, plus I had a giant loaf cat, I just had one. So all the loaf cats combined together, I sold 38 of them. The big loaf cat was $20. I only sold one of those like bigger ones. This is the size that sold the most often. I had these listed at $15 each, and they flew off the shelves. This pattern is actually a little bit of a hybrid. So the body is by Crochet with Bay, but then I changed up the tail. Bobcat, Leggy Froggy, and Axolotl. You can't go wrong with these 3. If you have these 3 items at your table, you are going to sell them. All right, so let's do like a little Crochet Markets Wrapped edition really quick. I'm going to quickly summarize the entire year, kind of like you do with your Spotify Wrapped. Okay, so number 1, the number of shows that I did this year, and that was 9. The number of items sold was 371. My best show sales was $1,315, and my worst show sales were $105. My total sales for the entire year were $4,112, and that equals to about $456.89 a show. I paid $922.14 in booth fees, $73.19 for square fees, $166 in state taxes. And my best guess at materials, because like I said, I did not keep track of my materials at first. I started near the very, very end. So I have a rough guess of how much the materials cost, and that was about $850 to $900. So my total profit after all of the expenses was $2,100.67. Now, if we break down just my total profit, that is $233.41 per show. Or if we calculate the average amount of profit for each item, that is $5.66. That is shocking. I did not realize it was going to be that low. Some of those items took multiple hours. I think the quickest thing takes me around like 18 to 20 minutes. So if I'm calculating it at $15 an hour, I should at least be making in profit $5 off of a small item. So yeah, my average amount per item is pretty low, and I'm not surprised because I've actually put out a couple of shorts that talk about how I price my item, and people have said your prices are low. I have not gotten a single comment that your prices are too high, only comments that your prices are very fair or a little bit low and they should be raised. So in that case, and like what I was talking about earlier with the pricing and figuring out my pricing strategy and sticking to it, that is something I'm going to focus on in 2025. I don't want to overcharge people. However, at the same time, I do need to think about myself and the time that I put into this, because not only do I have to crochet and prep for market, but I'm also worrying about all of my videos. I'm starting to get sponsorships. Can you believe that? Oh my God. I'm actually getting sponsorships from companies. And so there's a lot of stuff that I have to focus on, and I have to value my time. And if that means that I have to raise my prices a little bit in 2025, I guess so be it. All right, so that is my 2024 wrapped. I do want to give a huge thanks to anyone who has purchased anything from me, and I'm super excited about 2025 and applying everything that I've learned in 2024 to the shows in this upcoming year. Okay, and with that, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. I just recently hit 3,000 subscribers. I can't believe it because I just hit 2,000 not that long ago. So thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it so much. All right, make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Also, leave a comment down below if you have any advice or any questions. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more crochet content from me. Okay, thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
Bye.